Hey guys, it's time for me to tell you my top 3 Untamed cards you need to be using right now. And in the comment section below, tell me the Untamed cards you use in your battles while I tell you my top 3. So like the video and subscribe for more playtime content, and let's get into it. So like always, before we get into our top 3, we're going to give an honorable mention card, and this one's going to be Kron, the Undying. He's a personal favourite card of mine. I think he's one of the best cards in the game. But at level 1, he gets Healing. At level 2, he gets Divine. And at level 3, he becomes a whole monster by himself by having Last Stand. You don't need Llama anymore, even though Llama does come with Cleanse and it helps with a lot of instances. But having Last Stand by itself allows you to be able to play other summoners like Milo and Obsidian, and it just becomes a whole beast. But in Gold and up, it becomes that monster. So let's talk about the pros and cons of why you want to be playing this card, because I play this card all the time. Let's talk about the pros of Kron. He can clear through whole teams. If you pair it with Llama in the early stages of Bronze and Silver, it's so hard to kill him because once he gets into first position, he's going to be hitting for 6 or more. And he's going to be doing so much damage as well that you'll slowly get through your team and you'll slowly get back to max health, and then there's nothing you can really do. And then once you get into Gold and Diamond, he's going to be able to not need Llama anymore because he's got Last Stand by himself, and then you can pair him with Obsidian or Milo, and he can just be doing so much more stuff. So with Obsidian he can do more damage, and then with Milo he has protections, and then with Milo he protects him from the sneak meta. So right now we have the double sneak cards, so like Pelican, Bandit and Uraeus, and with the Milo in Gold and Diamond, it protects him because your cards are going to die while he's healing. Then once he gets into first position, he can activate his final form and absolutely kill your whole team. There's nothing really you can do, nothing much you can really do. He's really the biggest problem in Bronze League, because if you pair it with the Llama, there's not many cards that have Affliction to get rid of him, and even if it comes with Affliction, the Cleanse is just going to cleanse it anyway. So there's nothing much you can really do in Bronze League, because most people are going to pair the Kron with Llama, and it's going to protect it from any sort of way you can get rid of it, like Poison or Affliction. So in Bronze League, just be ready for a Kron, and maybe hope to have enough sneak damage to get rid of it before it gets into first position. Otherwise, there's nothing really much you can do. And even though we're talking about Llama, it doesn't need it in Gold and up because it gets Last Stand by itself, and you can get Cleanse from another monster in green to just cleanse it from the Affliction and Poison that might come its way. And then obviously once you get to first position, it can just destroy everybody, because I feel like Last Stand is so great. And if you have a Last Stand with a healing card, there's just so much potential you can do. It's the go-to card in 17 mana to that 20 mana-ish, because if you think about it with the Llama or with the Obsidian or the Milo, there's not much mana you need to be able to pull off so much damage and carnage, because Kron does so much by himself by one card. He can go through a team of 6 by himself, because in that low mana, you normally go with either a Little League team or a Kron team. And the Kron team a lot of the time will get through the Little League team unless you play the Little League team very well. And when it comes to 99 mana games, he's basically a second match within himself. If you can somehow protect him at the back and then let your first position and second position and on do the rest of the damage in the beginning of the game, then once he gets into first position, whatever monsters are left, they're guaranteed to just die from his carnage. See, I love this card a lot, and a lot of people feel this card's not very good or it's overrated, but for me, it's perfect. We brought up some amazing things when it comes to Kron, but let's bring up some of the cons. Realistically, without Llama, he really dies to Affliction, because without the heals, he won't get his health back, and it's kind of easy to kind of kill him because you don't really have any other protections. He's not really fast, and he don't come with any shields or void, even though you can pair it with an Immortalist, which would be great, but you can only really do that in like Gold and up, because obviously you want the Last Stand. So without the Llama, you won't get the Last Stand unless it's in Gold and up. It can kind of lose to sneak teams. If a sneak monster's got enough damage, or you got 2 or 3 of them, you can kind of kill the Kron before he gets into first position, and then realistically your strategy doesn't really work. And all in all, yeah, it needs Llama in Bronze and Silver, otherwise the Kron strategy don't really work too much, because Affliction can happen at any point, and we have Dr. Blight in the game. It's only 4 mana, and it's kind of a good throwing card, so the Kron could die at any point without the Llama protection. And over time, I feel like in the future there'll be more cards to kind of counter Kron, but for now he's such an amazing card, and he can definitely like get you a cheeky win when your opponent's not looking out for it. Some of the good wall types for this card is definitely going to be like Fog of War, because it obviously dies to sneak monsters, and if you take him out of the game, he's going to be very much protected to get into first position with the last stand and destroy a team. Silent Summoner is another one, because if there's no summoners that come in with an affliction like Mimosa for example, and then Kron can go through teams quite happily. And Equal Opportunity is another great wall type for him, because all the monsters will be going for the low life monsters, and Kron will be such a high health that he'll never get attacked, so he'll definitely get into first position, and you don't necessarily need to put him at the back to make sure he gets there because of the wall type. When it comes to bad wall types though, Super Sneak is definitely going to be one of them, because if we want the Kron at the back of the team, and if every monster is going and attacking him one after another, he's just going to die before he gets into first position for the last stand. Another one's going to be Get Your Ones Out. You'd think Kron would be an amazing card in this instance, but a lot of magic cards have affliction, and definitely if it's a green on green matchup, the Goblin Psychic will definitely come out, or the Dr. Blight, and it can definitely hurt Kron, so it's definitely a card to not use in that wall type. And another obvious one is going to be Healed Out, because the whole idea about Kron is it's healing and keeping it alive, and in that wall type, it's definitely not going to be able to do that. But this was an honourable mention because it's a personal favourite of mine, and it's definitely an overpowered card when your opponent's not being ready for it. But let's get into the 3 most powerfulest cards in the Untamed set. So let's get into the top 3 Untamed cards, and for number 3 we got Dark Hole, and at the beginning it gets Torn and Flying, and that's an amazing combination because it allows it to protect itself from melee and range types of damage even though it's getting focused. And then at level 2 it gets Salvage, and Salvage is amazing because it can slowly gain back life while it's taking so much damage and focus from Torn. And then at 3 and 4 it becomes the super anti-magic card once it gets Void and Magic Reflect, and it can protect itself from all types of damage types because the Flying for magic and range, and then it's got the 2 for magic with Void and Magic Reflect. So let's get into the pros and cons of the Dark Hole. So let's talk about the pros of the Dark Hole. It has so many abilities. What other ability do you really want it to have? Like, it has so many great ones. Void, Magic Reflect, Flying, Salvage. Like, in your mind you want some monsters to have these abilities, but it's got them all in one combination, and it's so great. And for me it's such an amazing card just because of its abilities. It's a super anti-magic card once it gets to max level. Void and Magic Reflect, what more can you ask? It will either do no damage to it, or if it does damage to it, it will be reflecting it back and slowly be killing the monsters, and it can slowly gain back life back with Salvage. And that's the greatest thing with Salvage. Anything this card does and it kills, it will be slowly getting itself back. If this card is played in any wall type when it can attack from the back line, it can slowly gain its life back with Salvage, and you never know, once it gets him back into first position, it might be back into max health, and then with all them abilities, it'll be doing so much, it might be like a second game within itself. It's a great tank with so many protections. It's got Flying and Void, so it can literally protect yourself against all types of damage. And I don't know if they'll ever bring out a 4th magic damage type, but until then this card is going to be so needed in Wild, and while it's in Modern it's going to be a key card. And it's definitely got to be one of the best taunt cards in the game. Like, we think about Slipspawn with the way how it can reduce damage from 5 and down. But with this card here, if you touch it, it's a problem for you. And if you die along the line, it'll slowly get itself back, and then you can never get rid of it. But let's talk about some of the cons of the card, because obviously every card comes with some downfalls. And it's definitely a high mana card for 10 mana. Even though it's got so many abilities and does so much for 10 mana, you might not be able to play it in all games, because you got to find a way to put it in. But 99 mana, this is a go-to card, and if you can fit it into any of your games, it will definitely help you a lot. Considering it's an anti-magic card, even though it's got Flying, it's really an anti-magic card. It can really die to fast melee teams. Over time it can't really take much beatings, and because it's the focus, it could just die before it does anything good. But let's talk about some of the good wall types of the card. Rebirth, the new wall type that we've just got, is definitely going to be a key one, considering it's got Salvage. Every time a monster comes back, it will definitely have another chance to gain another health, and that gives it another bit of survivability, and it can be doing so much more in your game. Considering it's got Flying, Earthquake's definitely got to be an obvious one for this one, because it can survive while other monsters are dying over time. And then, like I said, Salvage is one of my favourite abilities in the game, so it'll just be collecting lives while things die, and it just becomes more of a brute and more of a monster. Target Practice is going to be another one, because if any magic card hits it, it will either be doing no damage or be doing damage back to it. And if it's a range card, there's a chance it may miss it considering it's got flying, so it can definitely protect itself from any type of snipe damage that will come its way in that wall type. Even though it's got some great wall types to play this card, let's talk about the bad ones. And one of them is definitely going to be Fury, because it's a taunt card and it'll have double the damage on it, and you definitely don't want it to die before it does so much work for you. And another one's going to be Maximizer, so when all the monsters get more health, considering it's got 13 health, it'll be giving the other team so much health and it may be a deficit to you even though it has salvage. For me, this is going to be like the best protected card. In Untamed, there's some amazing cards, but for this one, it can survive, it can do damage back to it if it touches it, and it can be the focus, so the rest of your team could be doing all the work for you while it just survives and does some damage against magic. But let's get into the number 2 card. So let's get into our number 2 pick, Alamo. At the beginning, it gets immunity, and then at number 2, it gets phase, and at level 3, it gets return fire, and level 4, it gets magic reflect. And what does that scream? It basically destroys any backline damage that touches this card. And it's got 12 health from the beginning, and then at max health it gets 16. What more can you really ask? But let me get into the pros and cons of Alamo, because this monster is a backline destroyer. So let's get into the pros and cons of Alamo, starting with the pros. It's a great anti-magic card. If you can think about it, it's got phase and magic reflect. So if the magic card hits it, okay, it will do damage back to it. But most magic cards are kind of slow. If you think about some of the great cards, so like the green ones for example, they mainly have like 1 or 2 speed. Even Dr. Blight has 1 speed, Goblin Psychic, 1 speed. So most of them cards will miss this card, and any of the fast ones will be doing damage back to them. And in my mind, pretty much all the fast ones have low health, considering the slow ones have quite a bit more health. And they must be doing damage back to themselves. So it's a great anti-magic card all round. And if you really think about it, it's a great anti-backline card all in all. It's got magic reflect and it's got return fire. Like we think about Pellicle Conjurer with the magic reflect and then paired with the summoner to get the return fire. But this card's got it all in one. And that means any card that attacks it will just be doing damage straight back to it. Any card that's got snipe, it'll be doing damage straight back to it if it's at the backline for example. This card can be used in so many ways and in so many different wall types, it's so flexible. And with all the other abilities, like with phase, it could be missing as well, and it's got 6 speed, so a lot of the range cards will be missing as well. It'll be missing or be doing damage back to them. It's a great card. It's such a great card, yeah. It can kill teams without attacking them themselves. They'll be doing the damage to themselves, and it'll just be sitting there laughing. Then all the other cards in your team can just be doing all the damage, and maybe killing, like doing health damage to them. So then when the return fire or the magic reflect happens, they can die straight away. The immune will come in handy in some instances, because obviously poison might attack it, and then obviously it won't do any damage to it. And I know it's a bit situational immune, but it's definitely come in handy in some way. In my mind, if I think about some of the best non-attacking cards, we think about Pellicle Conjurer for example, Failed Summoner. This has definitely got to be above all of them, considering it destroys every backline card, and it's got phase with 6 speed, so it can definitely dodge some melee and range damage on top without having flying. So that's a great card all round. And just look at its health here, it's got a maximum of 16 health. Jesus Christ. For the amount of mana it is, it's just so great. Like if you think about its abilities and its stats, even though it's got no attacking stats, it's just so good. Like what more can you ask for that mana? But when it comes to cons for this card, there's not many if in honesty. Like I'd have to actually pick at some little ones. For example, it can't attack without weapons training, but we've talked so much about how it could do so much damage without attacking. Is that really a feat for it? And I don't know, it can't be used in even mana games because it's odd mana. That's what I mean, this card is so great and can be used in so many different ways. There's not many cons for this card, there's just so many pros. When it comes to rule types, the good ones for this card would definitely be Keep Your Distance, considering it's got Magic Reflect and Return Fire, and you can play this card in this rule type. It could be doing so much damage to them while your scatter shot range or your magic cards can be doing damage everywhere else, and this card could be a great tank for you there. Another one's going to be Poison, because it's got the immune, and like I said, it's a little bit situational, and in a situation it's going to be great. Another one's going to be Blast, and you really got to think about it, because of the Return Fire and the Magic Reflect. In the Blast rule type, any cards of that damage type that hits it will be doing damage back to them. And considering the blast can attack the cards on the side, it could just be doing it randomly all the time. And I feel like it would be a good little like unsituational card there, and people won't predict it at all. Some of the bad wall types is definitely going to be back to basics, because this card is all about its abilities, because it's got no damage, so if you strip it of that, it's going to be basically useless. Another one's going to be reverse speed, considering if you're going to try to pair this card with weapons training, it'll be one of the last cards that attack, considering how fast it is with that 6 speed at that max level. Another one's going to be Maximizer. Considering how much health this card is, you don't want to give your opponent that ability to have so much health at their disposal. And this is what I mean here, it's hard to make this list, and like this card is a neutral card, so it can be played with so many different teams and situations, and that's why it's a number 2 spot, because it's a great card, but it was not number 1. So let's get into the number 1 card of Untamed set, and you need to be using it right now. If you're not, either buy it, rent it, but let me get ready to talk about it. We've talked about some amazing cards from Untamed, and now it's time to talk about the best card from Untamed, and it is Cornelius. We've all lost to this card, and some of us have won with this card, and it's always been in some random ways. Like in my mind, yeah, I've seen this card win in some random instances that it had to be number 1. So let's get into its rule types. At the beginning, it gets healing, which is great. And at level 2, it gets Thorns, level 3, Return Fire, and level 4 at max level, it gets Magic Effect. And what does that say to you? If you hit me, you're going to die. And it's a big eyeball that sees all, and it does so much damage if you touch it. And considering Alamo was number 2 for that instance, but this one has damage by itself by it being a range card. So let's get into the pros and cons of Cornelius. It's time to do the pros and cons of the greatest card in Untamed, and if you don't already own it, why you need to be renting it ASAP. It can win games without attacking. Considering all its abilities, it can just be doing damage back to everybody. If any card has Snipe or Scatter Shot, it can just be doing damage back to it. And I'm going to be saying damage back so much during this segment of the video, and I do apologise. But the thing is, it's got a little bit of range damage as well. So it could be doing a little bit of chip damage to the tank here, while returning any Snipe or Scatter Shot, or even Sneak or Opportunity. It has Thorns. Like, it can literally destroy any damage type that touches it. It's such a great card. It's got even better now that we got the new rule type of range only, because you can put it at the back and it can slowly destroy the tanks and the monsters on the way. And then once you get into first position, even though it might not be able to attack, it has Return Fire and it can heal. And at max level, it can heal for 6 and more. So it can literally just survive and destroy the team without doing anything. It's basically a pacifist. All I can say is you need to pray for any card that touches it, because Thorns is going to hurt the melee. Range, Return Fire. Any magic card is going to hurt it. And considering it's got 3 speed, it can maybe do a little bit of like range damage along the line. I'm not really a fan of range card, but this card here, it does so much, yeah, I have to put it as number 1. In reality, this list ain't big enough and it needs a video by itself. And I feel like that's what I'm going to do. And I'm going to leave this pros how it is, because I feel like we all know how amazing this card is. When it comes to cons, I don't know. It can't attack from first position. And is that really a con or is that a statement? Because I've come up with reasons why. Once it gets into first position, even though it can't attack, it can still do so much for your team. And it may even win you a game. When it comes to good rule types for this card, target practice is going to be a given, because any magic or range card that touches it, because of its abilities, it'll be doing damage back to them. So once it gets into first position, it can heal up over time, and then that's never going to kill it really. Another one's going to be keep your distance, because like I said, yeah, it's got the Magic Effect and the Return Fire, and it's got 3 speed, so some of the range cards won't necessarily hit it. And if you want to be like kind of like techy with your strategy and you want to play the phase Dragon Summoner, think about it. It may miss as well. There's so many strategies you can go with this card. And another one's going to be close combat, because if this card can attack from first position with everything else that can go on, it's just going to be such a monster. And is there going to be really a lot of ways to kill it? In my mind, not really, and it can just do so much for your team. When it comes to bad rule types, for me it's got to be Maximizer, because it's got so much health at 12 at max level, and you don't want to give your opponent that advantage of having so much health when you could be at a deficit. And another one's going to be Healed Out, because you want this card to heal over time, and when it's in first position, giving damage back to the opponents from attacking it, you want it to heal. So in this rule type, you might not necessarily want to play this card. There'll be better cards to play in that rule type. But This is the greatest Untamed card for me, and if you think differently, get in the comment section and tell me your best Untamed card and the ones that we should all be using in our battles. But if you enjoyed the video, please like it and subscribe for more play to earn content, and we're going to see you guys next time.